Dune Imperium is one of the best and most popular games out there. Its first expansion, Rise of Ix, has been a huge hit, but there's a lot to wrap your head around. I'm here today to help you out. I'm going to take you through it with a game in the digital version. I'm going to explain everything new in Rise of Ix as we go. We're going to talk about techs, dreadnoughts, the shipping track, unload, all of the new leaders, everything you need to know in bite-sized form as we go through it in the game. This will help you be ready to play the game whether you're playing it physically or digitally. Everything here still applies. Keep in mind, in this video I'm just explaining the new things in Rise of Ix. If you want an explanation of how to play Dune Imperium from the ground up, check out my how to play video in the link below. If you're into Dune Imperium, make sure you subscribe to the channel for tons of Dune Imperium content. We've got full game playthroughs online against other players in base game, in Rise of Ix, in ranked, in a tournament. We've also got challenge modes and guides. Everything is there. All right, with that, let's get straight into the game. All right, here we are in the game. Now, I'm going to be the third player. So we're going to see a couple opponents take their moves first. I'll wait for that to finish, and then I'll start explaining what's going on here in Rise of Ix. All right, here we are. Now, as you can see, we do have 3 of the new Rise of Ix leaders in the game. I'm going to get to them later. First, I want to talk about the major things that are different in Rise of Ix compared to base game. And I want to start up here at the top right of the board. So you can see that actually the top right of the board has been changed. Now, if you're playing with the physical board game, Rise of Ix comes with a little cardboard overlay that you're going to put on top of the board. So you're going to cover up this top section of the board. And so what was Hall of Oratory, Rally Troops, Sell Melange, and Secure Contract, those are going to get covered up by these 4 new spaces. Let's go through them first. All right. The first thing we need to talk about is tech. Ix in the Dune universe is this hyper-technological society. Well, I guess I shouldn't say hyper-technological, because still technology is very limited in the Dune universe. It's one of the things that's interesting about it compared to something like Star Trek, for example. But anyway, Ix is the society that kind of dominates the manufacture of technologies. And in Rise of Ix, you can now buy technology to give you new abilities. So over here at the top right is the tech offer. These are technologies that you can buy in the game, and you can see that they all cost spice to acquire. If you're playing with the physical game, you're going to shuffle up all of the technologies and you're going to make 3 stacks of 6. The stack should be face down with only the top one face up. Okay, so this is tech. So buying a tech costs spice, and when you buy a tech, it's going to come into your player area as a permanent sort of upgrade to you for the rest of the game. Some of them will give you a passive ability, some of them will give you an activated ability, and some of them will do something when you acquire the tech. So for example, if we look at Wind Traps over here, it costs 2 spice to acquire it. When you acquire it, you're going to gain 1 water. So that's the same kind of idea as there are some cards in the Imperium row that when you acquire them, they have some effect. Some techs do something similar. Okay, so you pay 2 spice and you get a water immediately. Then that little tile is going to go in your player area. And for the rest of the game, anytime you win a conflict, you're going to gain a water. All right, flagship over here costs 8 spice, which is a lot of spice. When you acquire it, you're going to gain a victory point. So it's basically like getting a spice must flow in that way. And then you're going to have this activated ability. So you see that little rectangle with the arrow. Basically, that means flip over the tile. In a way, it's like tapping it or something if you're used to Magic the Gathering. It's a once per round kind of effect. Okay, so once per round, you can flip over the flagship and pay 4 Solari to get 3 troops into your garrison. And you can do that anytime on your turn once per round. So for example, if you happen to visit a combat space, then you can activate the flagship at that time to get 3 extra troops that you could then deploy to the conflict. So it can be a quite powerful ability. Over here, looking at artillery, it costs 1 spice to acquire. And this means every time you reveal, it's going to give you +1 sword for each reveal card that provides 1 or more sword. What that means is, for every card you reveal that has swords on it, artillery is going to go +1. So, for example, if you look at my hand down here, I have 2 daggers. If I were to reveal this while having the artillery, I'd get 1 sword for this dagger, 1 sword for this dagger. Then I'd get another 1 for each of those daggers for a total of 4, because it gives me +1 for every card I reveal with swords on it. Okay, so that's the artillery. So how do you acquire techs? Okay, you've got to pay spice to do it, but can you do it whenever you want? No. To acquire a tech, you need to have this little rectangular symbol here. This is the acquire a tech symbol. So anytime you activate that kind of a symbol, you're allowed to then buy a tech, which you then pay for with spice. Note that when you visit an acquire tech icon, you can only buy 1 tech. So it doesn't matter if you've got loads of spice, you can't clean out the tech row. You can buy 1 or 0. That's it. So both of these spaces here have that symbol. There are some cards you can find that have that symbol on the agent ability. There are some intrigue cards that have it. There are different ways you can find that symbol, but the main 2 are on these board spaces. So let's take a look at this first one here. So Tech Negotiation replaces Hall of Oratory, and it has some similar functionality. The basic function is you get 1 extra persuasion if you have sent an agent there this round. So that's the same as Hall of Oratory, but instead of getting a troop, you have a choice. You can either acquire a tech, but you get a discount of 1. That little -1 means you can acquire a tech, but you get a discount. So if you were to visit Hall of Tech Negotiation, if I were to send my dagger there, for example, then I could buy one of these techs for 1 cheaper. So I could get the artillery for free, which I could do. I have no spice right now, but 1 minus 1 is 0, so I could go there and buy an artillery immediately. The other option you have, if you don't want to acquire a tech right now, is you can get a tech negotiator. The way that works is in the physical game, there's an extra little board space that sits outside of the board with the, it has this shipping track, which I'll talk about in a moment, and it has a little Ix planet where when you get a tech negotiator, you take one of your cubes from your supply and you put it over on the Ix planet, and that's one of your negotiators. What that means is anytime that you acquire a tech, you use one of your negotiators to get a discount of 1, and then that cube goes back to your supply. All right, so let me just show you that right now. So I'm going to play through this game, but I'm not going to be playing like optimal strategy necessarily, but I'm going to try to play so that I can show you how things work. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to send a dagger up here to tech negotiation. All right. And now I click the ability and now I get to choose. If I want a tech negotiator, I click this thing here. If I want to buy a tech, I drag one over. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'll take a tech negotiator just to show you how it works. So I'm going to gain 1 tech negotiator. And in the digital game, your tech negotiators are over here next to your resources. You got your spice, your slurry, your water, and your tech negotiators. All right. So you can see I have 1 negotiator, which is going to give me a 1 spice discount the next time I buy a tech. And if I look over here at my supply, it says I have 8 troops left in my supply because that supply is shared between troops and negotiators. That can matter. If you have a lot of tech negotiators, it means you're not going to have troops available to get from your supply. So let's say you go for like a Hayliner, but you've got a whole bunch of negotiators over here. You won't be able to actually get those troops because there's no way to get your negotiators back without spending them to buy tech. You can't just take them back whenever you want. All right, let's talk a little bit about the other space here where you can get techs. So the Dreadnought space costs 3 Solari to go to, and it lets you acquire a tech For no discount, you can still use Negotiators if you want. And you also acquire a Dreadnought, which is a new type of combat unit. And I'll explain the details of that a little bit later. Okay, so those are these spaces. Now, the other thing we need to look at now is these two spaces. So there's no more secure contract and there's no more sell melange. So getting Solari is quite different in Rise of Ix compared to base game. All right. Let's take a look at this first space here called smuggling. When you go to this space, you get one Solari and you activate a freighter. So this symbol here is freighter, and this is related to this shipping track right here. So this is called the shipping track. And everyone has a little piece at the bottom of the track. Whenever you activate a freighter, you either can move your little token up one. So if you're down at the bottom, you can move up here. If you're here, you can move up here. If you're here, you can move up here. Okay, so you can move one spot up the track, or you can drop down from wherever you are, collecting all the rewards along the way. So, for example, if I have my spot just in the first space here, and I activate a freighter, I can either go up here, or I can drop down. If I drop down, I collect the rewards next to where I was. Here, I either opt for 5 Solari for me and 1 Solari for everybody else, or just 2 spice for me. If I'm at the second level of the shipping track and I choose to recall my freighter, drop down, then I get 2 troops to my garrison, 1 influence with the faction of my choice, and I get the rewards below. So I also then get to choose either Solari for me and everyone else, or 2 spice for me. If I'm at the top of the research track, the shipping track, and I drop down, then I get to acquire a technology for a discount of 2. I get the troops and the influence, and I get to choose which resource I want. Okay, so 1 freighter either moves you up 1 or drops you all the way back down to the bottom. Interstellar shipping is a new space in Rise of Ix that requires faction access. So in base game, and still here in Rise of Ix, Siege Tabor requires you to have 2 influence with the Freeman in order to go there. Well, Interstellar shipping requires you to have 2 influence with the Guild in order to get there. And going there lets you activate your freighter twice. So that means you can either move 2 spaces up, or you could move 1 space up and then immediately recall, or you could recall and then move up 1. Interstellar shipping is a very, very powerful spot in Rise of Ix because this shipping track has a lot to offer. Okay, that's enough for now. Let's get playing, and then as we continue, I'll explain a bit more. All right, so end turn. All right, here we're going to see Yuna go to smuggling. So you're going to see she's going to activate her freighter, and because she started at the bottom, she can only go up. Also note the conflict here. So there are some new conflicts in Rise of Ix that connect to these systems we've just been talking about. So this level 1 skirmish, the first place winner will get to activate their freighter as well as getting a spice. Okay, it's over to me. Now, what do I want to do? Well, now would be a good time to take a look at my leader. So I've chosen to play with Archduke Armand Ecaz. This is one of the new leaders in Rise of Ix. Let's take a look at what he does. House Ecaz, coordination. Reveal turn. If you have at least 2 agents on Landsrad, City, or Spice Trade board spaces, you may trash one of your cards in play. Okay, so let's take a look at that again. If you have at least 2 agents on green, blue, or yellow at the end of the round, when you reveal, you may trash one of your cards in play. So right now, one of my agents is on a Landsrad space. So let's say I send my Signet Ring to one of these spaces down here. That would satisfy that condition. I'd have 1 on yellow, 1 on green. So that would be at least 2. And when I reveal, I could trash one of my cards in play. So I could trash that dagger, for example. So Archduke Ecaz is really great at trashing cards, obviously. He can do it every round if you really want to, if you play your cards right, if you prioritize it. And the Signet Ring, which I don't have in my hand, I do have in my hand... Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whew, that was close. You may acquire a card that costs 3 or less. Conscript. All right, so whenever I play the Signet Ring, I can just immediately acquire a card from the Imperium row or from the supply. So I can take an Arrakis Liaison if I want and just throw it straight into my discard pile. And then when I reveal, I can still buy a card. So Ecaz is really focused on deck building. He's a really fun leader to play. So let's show how that works. All right, so Signet Ring, if I want to play it, I only have 2 options here. I can go and get 1 spice or I can get 2 spice. Well, I have a Negotiator. Let's go ahead and let's get just 1 spice for now. I don't want to spend my water. Okay, so let's acquire a card. All right, now let's take a look at some of these cards here because we can see some of the new abilities that you can find on cards in Rise of Ix. Rise of Ix introduces some really interesting new mechanics to cards in the Imperium deck. So first of all, let's take a look at Freighter Fleet here. So you can see it's a spice trade thing. So basically it's a Dune the Desert planet, but it has a reveal. So ignore the little weird symbols on the bottom left for a moment. The reveal is activate your freighter. Okay, that's really nice. So if this is in your hand at the end of your turn, you can reveal it and move your freighter up or drop it to collect rewards. Okay, now let's look at that little red square at the bottom left. This is called unload. What that means is anytime you either trash this card or discard this card from your hand, you also get to activate the reveal effect. Okay, so it's still a normal reveal effect. If you reveal at the end of your round, you're going to get that freighter activation. But if you have some way of trashing it or discarding it from your hand, you also get to do that. So for example, if I were to go to selective breeding and this were in my discard pile, I could trash it to activate my freighter. As for discarding, this is another one of the new mechanics in Rise of Ix. So let's go ahead and take a look at In the Shadows. Let's look at the agent ability here. In the Shadows, when you play this card, if you have 2 influence with the Bene Gesserit, if you want to, you can discard a card from your hand to gain an influence with the Emperor, Guild, or Freeman. So that little red card symbol with the down arrow, that means discard a card from your hand. And she also has an unload ability, which gets you an influence with the Bene Gesserit. So again, that's a normal reveal ability. You get it when you reveal it, but you can also get it by discarding the card somehow or trashing the card somehow. All right, here's another one with unload over here. Reveals for 2 Solari and 2 spice. Very nice. Or you can unload it for 2 Solari and 2 spice. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take In the Shadows with my conscript. So I haven't even revealed yet. That's just a free snag with the Signet Ring. And I can deploy units here. You know what? Let's go for it. Okay, so I'm going to... Oh, no, it's only 2. Let's put in 1 and see what we get. All right, unfortunately, Tessia also had a dagger in hand, so it looks like we're going to tie at 3. We're both going to get 2 Solari. The Baron is going to come out on top. Okay, so now there's a couple things going on here. Number 1, I can acquire a card, so I am going to acquire this Freighter Fleet for 2 Persuasion. And the other thing here is you can... Oh, another In the Shadows pops up. I can now activate my... What was it called? Coordination ability. I can trash one of my cards in play because I have an agent on a green space, and I have an agent on a yellow space, so that satisfies that coordination ability. Okay, now notice it has to be a card in play. I can't trash from my discard pile or from my hand. Of course, I don't have a hand during my reveal. So let's go ahead and trash a dagger. 1 persuasion left, nothing to get, end turn. Baron goes to smuggling, so he now has the option of going up or dropping down. So he recalls his freighter. And it looks like he chose to take spice there. Okay. Let's take a look at another new card that came up in the Imperium row here, because this shows another new mechanic in Rise of Ix. Certain agents can have infiltration. So if you take a look at the little agent icon on Bounty Hunter there, you can see there's like half of a white agent right up there. That's called infiltration. And what that means is you can send this card to a city space even if your opponents have an agent there. So in other words, Bounty Hunter is not blocked by enemy agents. It's still blocked by your own agents, okay? So you can't send, you know, an agent to Carthag and then on your next round send this guy to Carthag. But if somebody else goes to Carthag and you want to, you can still send Bounty Hunter there. So it's kind of like a mini Helena ability in that sense, which is really cool. And he also gets a bonus. If used to send an agent to a board space with an enemy agent, get to Solari. So there are a number of new cards in the Imperium row and Rise of Ix that have this infiltration ability, and it can really be pretty helpful. Okay. Let's take a look at this round. I have a diplomacy, I have a reconnaissance, and I have some dunes. Well, there's a lot of spice here. And I kind of maybe want to collect some spice so that I can pick up a tech. But, you know, I really want to get my guild influence up so that I can potentially start going to interstellar shipping. So what I'm going to do is send a diplomacy over here to Fold Space, and we're going to pick that up. That's going to be that. So what that means essentially is I'm kind of forgoing the opportunity of trashing a card this round, right? Because now that I've sent an agent to a faction space, I can't get 2 agents on these spaces. What you're going to tend to see in Rise of Ix is Fold Space and Smuggling being used almost every round for the first number of rounds of the game, because this shipping stuff is really so important in Rise of Ix for getting your resources and for getting influence, and it's a large focus of the expansion. Okay, well that spice is gone, unfortunately. So what do I want to do? Well, I think maybe I'll go pay a visit to Arching, and we'll just see what happens there. I'm hoping to kind of, if I get lucky, maybe draw a convincing argument and be able to pick up one of these big cards. Let's just go ahead and see what happens there. It happened. Okay, great. Now, deploy units. I wouldn't mind getting some spice. Let's just throw them all in. Okay. In a moment, I'm going to explain what these other 2 leaders in the game do. Baron is revealing already for 4. What's he going to get? Okay, Sea Reverend Mother gets picked up by the Baron. Okay, So we have two other new leaders here. Let's take a look at them. Let's start with Yuna Moritani. Princess Yuna Moritani. Don't ask me what's going on there. This is a made-up character completely for the game. Doesn't exist in any of the Dune books. At least any of the real Dune books. I don't know about the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson ones. I don't think she's even in there. Anyway, smuggling operation. Check this out. You start the game with no water. Okay, that's a pretty big deal. Whenever you gain Solari on your turn, increase the amount gained by 1. That's also a big deal in the other way. So let's just think about what that means. So for Yuna Moritani, when she goes to wealth, she gets 3 Solari instead of 2. When she goes to smuggling, she gets 2 Solari instead of 1. If she cashes in on the shipping track, she gets 6 Solari instead of 5. Okay? And if she gets Solari in some other way on her turn, whether it's from an agent ability or from a reveal or from an intrigue card, it's +1 as well. Now keep in mind the on your turn part of this. This is something I overlooked the first time I played with Yuna in person. So you're not going to get extra Solari, for example, when other people activate the shipping track and donate you a Solari. You're just going to get 1, not 2. If you control one of these board spaces and one of your opponents visits that space, you're just going to get 1. On the other hand, if you control one of these spaces and you visit it, then you'll get 2. All right, so Yuna can really collect Solari potentially much faster than the other leaders, and that connects to her Signet Ring ability, which at first glance looks completely insane. Final delivery. 7 Solari to activate her Signet Ring. And what do you get? 1 influence of your choice, 1 troop, and 1 spice. I don't know about you, but when I first looked at this, I thought this looks absolutely terrible. You know, you can't activate this in the early part of the game because you're trying to get your Solari for your Swordmaster, your High Council seat. Where are you going to find 7 Solari to ever activate this? But what I found is that in the second half of the game, once you've gotten those things down, this can be really good because, as I said, Yuna collects lots of Solari. So you're going to have Solari you're sitting on. And of course, as we all know in Dune, you know, an influence of your choice can be a really big deal, and a troop and a spice can make a difference as well. So very interesting new leader. Let's take a look at Tessia Vernius here. All right, notice this, 4 levels of complexity. So this is the first leader in the game, and as of Rise of Ix, the only leader in the game that has level 4 complexity. Okay, so let's start with this idea of these snooper tokens. Game start, put a snooper token at 2 influence on each influence track. So when we go back here, you can see these little keys. Okay, you may have been wondering, what the hell are these keys? These are Tessia's snooper tokens. So you just put those there at the start of the game. All right, what do? Whenever you reach a snooper token, gain the topmost uncovered reward from the snooper track. This is the snooper track here. It's just on her leader card. Okay, so let's look at this. The first time that Tessia reaches one of these things, so Tessia is red here, she hasn't done it yet, but whenever she gets an influence with the Bene Gesserit, for example, she'll take that snooper token off the board, and she will then activate the top level snooper reward here. So the first one says, when you activate that snooper token, you can discard a card from your hand to get 1 spice. Okay, so let's say she's done that. And then let's say later she grabs this guild snooper token. So that would be the second snooper token. That gets taken off the board. You would then look at this second reward here, which says gain the bonus from this token's influence track. In that case, they're talking about these bonuses up here. So if this were the second one that Tessia got, when she gets it, she would collect 3 Solari. Pretty nice. Okay, what's the third one? Gain 1 influence on this token's influence track. So that means, let's say the Emperor is the third one she gets. As soon as she goes here, boom, immediately jumps up another one. Very good. And the last one, gain the bonus from this token's influence track and 1 influence on that track. So if the Freeman were the last one she activated, she would get a water and jump up the next level. Okay, so that's like pretty good stuff there. Let's take a look at her Signet Ring, Duplicity. When you activate her Signet Ring, you may drop an influence with a faction of your choice in order to gain one influence with a faction where you have a snooper token. So let's say, for example, that Tessia goes to the Bene Gesserit on this next round with, well, I guess that doesn't make sense. Let's say she uses her Signet Ring. She could drop down with, let's say, the Bene Gesserit, and then she could go up anywhere else because she has a snooper token everywhere at the moment. So she could go up with the Guild, for example, get to level 2 with the Guild, unlocking interstellar shipping, and being able to discard a card to get a spice. So she has a lot to do with the influence tracks, basically. Okay, it's back to me. Time to reveal. I have 6. I mean, this Reverend Mother is so good, but you know what I'm going to do? I want to take more of these new mechanics in Rise of Ix. So I'm going to grab Esmar Tuek for 5. And I'm going to grab the Bounty Hunter for 1, just so we can show off more of these new mechanics. Baron ambushing. Okay, so he's going to jump up to first place. Very unfortunate. Chom Directorship pops up here. All right, well, we're going to get 2 spice out of it. Baron now up to 6 spice. Okay, I am the first player. Now, unfortunately, I don't have 2 influence with the Bene Gesserit, so I can't actually activate this in the shadows right now. Let's take a look at what's going on here. One thing you may notice is that so far, nobody has a Swordmaster. It's a little bit harder to get an early Swordmaster in Rise of Ix, but I think I can actually get one this round. So, no, I can't. No, I can't. I'm nowhere on this track. Okay. Well, all right. Well, I'm going to send a Fold Space up here to smuggling. So all I can do is advance. You can see this little UI here, advance or recall. Well, I'm at the bottom, so advance is the only option. And there I go. I got my 1 Solari. I moved my freighter, and it's time to end the turn. Okay, so once again, I have interesting decisions to make. I think I want to save the In the Shadows and the Freighter Fleet to activate both of their reveal abilities. I could send a Seek Allies over here to Fold Space, which would jump me up to 2 with the Guild. That would be very good to activate interstellar shipping. Also, I could use the Signet Ring somewhere, and that would mean I have 2 agents on these basic spots, and I could trash a card. Also, I can acquire a card with the Signet Ring. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and get a Dreadnought, okay? This is not, I think, a super smart move because I'm close to being able to get my Swordmaster potentially. But I'm going to get this Dreadnought so that we can take a look at how it works in the game. So I'm going to send Signet Ring up here. Going to pay 3 Solari. Here's the Dreadnought. All right. And I can buy a tech. So let's go ahead and take a look here. I think I would like to get this Wind Traps, and it's only going to cost me 1 because of my tech negotiator here, which is giving me a discount. Normally costs 2. but it's just going to cost me 1. And you can see here that I'm going to get a water immediately upon acquiring the wind traps. Now, where is that tech? Okay, so in the physical game, it would just sit in front of your player, area somewhere. Here, it's in this little spot. So if I click there, I can see the text that I have. There it is. For opponents, you've got to, right now the UI is a little bit rough. You got to click on their face, then you got to click on tech, and it'll show you their text. At the moment, my opponents don't have any text. When you acquire a tech, it gets immediately replaced by the next one in the stacks. Remember, in the physical game, you've got 3 stacks of face down text. There's 6 in each one. When you buy one, the next one in that stack gets flipped over. If the stack is ever empty, it's just empty, and then there's just 2 stacks left. So the Sonic Snoopers here came in to replace the wind traps. When you acquire this, you get an Intrigue card, and you can trash this anytime you want on your turn. Trash this tech to put any number of your Intrigue cards on the bottom of the Intrigue deck, then draw that many Intrigue cards. This is another kind of theme in Rise of Ix, is the ability to trade out your Intrigue cards for different ones. There's a few different ways that you can discard Intrigue cards to get a different Intrigue card, or put them on the bottom of the deck to get other ones. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe this is the only thing that does it. I don't know, but it's common enough that it makes me think it's a theme. Okay, so anyway, I bought a tech, I got a Dreadnought. I'm now going to acquire a card that costs 3 or less. You know what? Let's get another In the Shadows. Okay, now you might say, what the hell is a Dreadnought? Okay, so a Dreadnought is another kind of combat unit. So it's called a unit. Troops are troops, Dreadnoughts are Dreadnoughts. Troops and Dreadnoughts are both called units. So they work basically the same way as troops in terms of deploying them, but they're worth 3 combat strength instead of 2. I'm going to leave it at that for now, and then once I use it in a conflict, I'll explain some of the other cool things about it. All right, so let's end turn. Going to see some new Intrigue cards as well. Rise of Ix includes a lot of new Intrigue cards, a lot of new Imperium cards. Honestly, I think the best part of the expansion is the new cards that it adds to the decks. A lot of new variety and some interesting new things. The Baron is really hoarding the spice here. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a little bit of a sad reveal, revealing for 0. But look at all these different things that are happening. So number 1, the In the Shadows triggered. I got 1 influence at the Bene Gesserit. My Signet Ring is available to use, so let's go ahead and trash one of my cards in play. Let's lose another dagger. And my Freighter Fleet triggered, so I can either advance or recall my Freighter Fleet. So I could get 5 Solari right now, which would, potentially let me get a High Council or, another Dreadnought, or I could go up. Let me just go up so that we can see kind of how that's going to work. So I'm going to advance. And there we go. We're seeing some of these new cards in the Imperium row as well. I can't show all of them, but we've got quite a few there. I mostly want to focus on the new mechanics, not necessarily spend time looking at every single new card that pops up. You can discover those in your own games as well. Okay, Tessia wins here, getting 2 influence somewhere, which is a pretty big deal, because Tessia is all about the influence. So she's going to unlock her first Snooper token there and her second one. So that's going to get her an Intrigue card. I guess that's where that Intrigue card came from just now. All right. Now I'm going to be the last player here. All right, this is going to be the first interstellar shipping we're going to see. Tessia goes there, so she's going to jump up 1. And she jumps up 2. Baron goes to a Hayliner here in round 4. Really wants to win this conflict. Right, so we saw that Yuna went to smuggling. She dropped down, collected a bunch of Solari, and all of us got 1 Solari as well. All right, well, I kind of want to get this in the shadows working for me. So I really want to get to 2 influence with the Bene Gesserit here. So I'm going to send a Seek Allies over to... Unfortunately, I don't have a discard pile, or I'd actually think about going to selective breeding just because I'm already trashing a lot. It'd be kind of fun to focus on that. But given that I don't, I'm going to just use Seek Allies. We'll go to Secrets, see what we get for an Intrigue card. And it's a refocus. Okay, here comes the Baron's Master Stroke, I think. No. Okay. Did he already trigger it? I'm not really sure. Okay, so now I can activate this in the shadows. So it's not necessarily the most exciting play, given that I have a diplomacy I could just use anyway. But I'm going to do it. You know what? I'm going to draw a card first and see if I can draw one of my... Okay, I didn't. I was hoping that I would draw one of my unload cards, but that's not going to happen this round. All right, let's use In the Shadows. Do I want to get a tech? No. I want an Intrigue card. Corner the market. Okay, so I can now trigger this In the Shadows. So let's do that. So I'm going to click this. It's going to ask me to discard a card. I'll go ahead and discard this Dune the Desert Planet. And I can now go up with one of these 3 factions. Let's go ahead and choose Guild. And I can deploy a unit. Okay. I'm going to deploy my Dreadnoughts. You can see here I have an option. All right. So when you go to a combat space, the same rules apply. Any units that you acquire this turn, either troops or Dreadnoughts, you can throw in, plus up to 2 more from your garrison. So I gained 1 troop, so I can throw that in if I want. And I have 1 Dreadnought in my garrison, so I can throw that in if I want. And I'm just going to do the garrison. You can see there it's worth 3 strength. I'm going to leave it at that for now, and we're going to see what happens during the conflict. I reveal. I can't activate my coordination ability because I only have 1 agent on these basic spaces. The other one is over here. So I can't trash a card that way. I have 4 persuasion. I'm going to go with an Imperial Spy. Oh, that landing rights would have been quite nice. Having the freighter as an agent ability is quite good. I guess we'll just go with a liaison here. Or do I want to go for even more trashing? Let's go for even more trashing just to see if we can, you know, push Armand to the extreme. All right, here's the conflict, and I want you to watch what happens to my Dreadnought here. So it's adding 3 strength to the conflict, but you can see I'm not going to win. I'm going to get second place for an Intrigue card and a Spice. Watch what happens to my Dreadnought here. Check it out. The Dreadnought goes right back to the garrison. All right, Tessia drops down, so she's going to collect 2 troops. She's going to get an influence of her choice. She decided to pick up Solari, so that's, you can see everyone getting 1 Solari. She goes up with the guild, gains the alliance, gets 3 more Solari. Let's take a look at what Tessia did here. So she went to interstellar shipping, which activated 2 freighters, and she decided to recall. So she dropped down, then at the end she went back up. So that's something you can do. She was in the middle to start with. She could have gone up and then down to the bottom. Instead, she went down to the bottom and then back up 1. So she's ready to get more rewards sooner. All right. Well, what about me? Well, I've got a lot of interesting options here. A lot of interesting options here. Now, smuggling is looking pretty attractive because that would get me the 8 Solari that I'm going to need for Swordmaster, although I'm likely not going to be able to get it this round. But I think I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway. By the way, Reinforcements is the Intrigue card I got. So I'm going to send Dune the Desert Planet up there. I could send Esmar Tuek, but I think I'd rather keep him for the reveal and potentially the unload on that. So I'm going to send my Dune up here, even though there's a lot of spice here. That's also quite tempting. 4 spice sitting there. That could let me get a big tech. These are the decisions that make Dune such an interesting game. But I think I'm going to go ahead. The other option is I could just go up 1 and hope to get a discount on attack. All right, let's just go ahead and do this. We'll recall. Okay, so I'm going to get 2 troops in the garrison. You can see all these things down here. This can take up a lot of time in the game, so be really careful when you're activating the shipping track. It's very easy to run out of time, especially with all the animations that can trigger. Okay, let's go ahead and go up 1 with the Freeman to get closer to unlocking Siege Tabor. I'm going to choose Solari. It's going to feed everybody else 1. And that's that. Tessia gets her Swordmaster, which means I do not. It's not a surprise. Okay, now, if I wanted to, I could use the Bounty Hunter to go to Carthag. So it's blocked, but I've got this infiltration, so I could do that. And that would get me an extra 2 Solari as well. It's a pretty interesting option, but I kind of can't resist comboing this In the Shadows with the Esmar 2X. So I'm going to show you how unload works now. I'm going to send In the Shadows over here to Arching. So I've got a bunch of things here. First, let's go ahead and draw a card. Oh, a freighter fleet. Very nice. Now, discard a card. So I can choose which card to discard, and this is an interesting option here. I could discard the freighter fleet to activate a freighter, which would have been kind of cool if I had opted to go up with the smuggling, but I didn't. So we're going to discard Esmar 2X, and I guess in a way it doesn't really make that much of a difference because we're going to reveal him anyway. So it's kind of whatever. But I guess the point is I'm discarding something that, you know, isn't really necessarily adding anything to my hand anyway. So let's discard Esmar. We're going to see how it goes. I'm going to choose to gain influence with the Freeman again. You can see my resources boost up there, and I get my influence. Also, obviously, that means I could get those resources earlier in the round, potentially, to use them in the same round. We're going to deploy units. We'll throw that Dreadnought right back in, and let's go ahead and throw in some troops as well, because we do have this reinforcements if we wanted to. We can boost that up depending on what other people get up to. Okay, Sonic Snoopers was picked up over there. We've got another one here, Chomurky, coming in. Get 2 Intrigue cards when you acquire it, and check that passive effect out. Endgame, you win tiebreakers. If you've played Dune enough, you know that tiebreakers happen quite often, and it comes down to who has the most spice, or sometimes the second tiebreaker Solari, the third tiebreaker water, the fourth tiebreaker garrison troops. I've seen it go all the way to that. And so just outright winning tiebreakers because of this tech can be quite significant. All right. Well, I'm trying to decide if I want to use this reinforcements. Baron has 3 Intrigue cards. Yuna has 1. Let's take a look at their techs. Tessia Vernius just picked up this Sonic Snoopers, which is not a concern as far as the combat goes. So I'll go ahead and reveal first. Go ahead and trigger the freighter fleet, advancing my freighter 1. And for 3, we're just going to go ahead and take an Arrakis. Well, can I fight for this guild thing? I don't think so. We'll take an Arrakis liaison. Also, I can trash one of my cards in play because I have 2 agents over here. So let's go ahead and choose a card to trash from play. Okay, so I could trash Dune the Desert Planet, or I could just go ahead and trash this freighter fleet now to go up an influence. And that's an interesting option. But you know what? I'm not going to do it just yet because I kind of like the idea of comboing these In the Shadows with that freighter fleet for a little bit longer. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this Dune. And I'm going to opt, well, I mean, the assassination mission is relatively easy for me to trash. Let's do it. So I did not use the reinforcements, as you can see. We're just going to hope Baron doesn't have the Intrigue cards to overcome me here. Or the revealed swords, honestly. No revealed swords. He does buy a Chome directorship, though. Pew! Pew! Okay, we're going to watch some animations here. The Chome directorship animation is so satisfying when you're the one who buys it. Big deal for Baron. Okay. Looking good so far. Okay, watch what happens to my Dreadnought this time. I'm winning the conflict now. Watch what happens to the Dreadnought. All right, so I'm going to win. I get to trash a card. So the trashing spree continues here. And I guess I'll just trash the assassination mission, right? Great. Okay, now choose a location to control with your Dreadnought. So when you win a conflict with a Dreadnought, it doesn't go back to your garrison right away. Instead, it's going to spend 1 round controlling one of these spaces. So you can select any space that's available that you don't control already, which means you can select one controlled by an opponent and just kind of dominate them for a round. Now, nobody controls anything. I'm going to go ahead and choose Imperial Basin. So I control this. For all intents and purposes, I control this for this round. That means if anybody goes to this space, I'm going to collect a spice. If the next conflict were the battle for Imperial Basin, or whatever it's called, the 2-point conflict, I would get the defensive bonus. And what's going to happen is, at the end of this round, this Dreadnought is going to go back into my garrison again. There's the master stroke, finally, from the Baron. Okay, well, it's definitely Swordmaster time. Do I want to do it immediately, or do I want to wait a little bit? There's no hurry. Nobody else has a lot of Solari, and so what that means is it's now a great time for me to visit interstellar shipping. I do have 2 influence with the guild, so this space is now available to me, and honestly, this space is very rarely available. Basically, every round, somebody goes there if they can, and so if it's available, you should strongly consider going to it. Even if you don't have a big benefit, it often is a big deal to stop somebody else from doing it. Okay, I could send the Signet Ring, but I'm saving that for the Swordmaster. I could send Esmar Tuek, which would draw me a card and get an influence with the guild. Maybe I can compete for that alliance if I do that, but I'm sacrificing the resources on reveal. I think... What's in my deck that I might like to draw? I mean, there's some pretty good stuff in there. You know what? Let's just continue collecting his resources. So I'm going to go over here and just go to interstellar shipping with the Dune. So I'm down here. I'm going to advance 1. And I'm going to advance again. So the next time I activate shipping, I'm going to get all of these bonuses. I'll be able to get a tech at a discount. That's going to be the end of my turn. Baron's second Hayliner of the game here. And he really wants this 6 Solari. Okay, well, I've got to get the Swordmaster now, so let's go ahead and do it. The Signet Ring is the only card I have that can do it. Now, I can use my Signet Ring to acquire a card that costs 3 or less. Do I want any of these cards? Imperial Shock Troopers. This is kind of like a new Sardaukar infantry. So it has the same basically it's the same card, no agent abilities, but same reveal, except if you have an agent on an Emperor board space, it gives you an extra 3 swords. Well, I'm not terribly excited about that. Honestly, I'm not terribly excited about any of this stuff right now. I'm just going to go ahead and decline to acquire a card. And I'm just going to go ahead and end turn. All right, Imperial Basin gets picked up, so I do get the 1 spice there from my Dreadnought that's controlling it. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about not, like, competing for that right now. Oh, an opulence. That would be a pretty exciting thing for me to get. Okay, well, smuggling is available, so I can actually go ahead and just activate all of this stuff right now if I want to, and it seems kind of hard to resist. It's kind of hard to resist. Now, it feels a little bad in a way, just because I'm kind of not going to get the nice reveal on Esmar Tuek here, but that's all right. Let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so first we're going to click Recall. Now, there's a lot of things to manage right now. So we're going to go up somewhere. I think Bene Gesserit seems like a good choice right now. We've gotten our 2 troops. I think I'd like more spice. I can now acquire a tech at a discount of 2. Let's go ahead and take this flagship. So that's going to get me a victory point immediately. And now I have this ability I can activate, which I'm not going to do right now. Do I want to get an influence with the guild and draw a card for 1 spice? I do have some interesting reveal abilities that I could potentially draw. It might also get me to 5 persuasion, and I could pick up a power play. Let's just go ahead and do it. See what happens. It's an Imperial Spy. Okay, so that's kind of a dead draw, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and end turn. Okay, so this can be activated once per round. So I could activate this now, and then it'll be ready to be activated again next round. The question is, do I want to pay 4 Solari for that at this time? And I don't think I do. I also have this reinforcement. I could do, you know, anyways, I'm not doing it right now because I don't care about this conflict. Trash one of my cards in play. Either a Dune or a Reconnaissance. I think this time, maybe let's go ahead and get rid of a Reconnaissance. And I don't want any of this stuff still. I'm trying to keep my deck kind of small here. Now, I haven't been paying attention to this, right? This corner of the market. I haven't been working towards that. So if I want to try to get that done, I'm going to have to get myself a High Council seat and start trying to pick up some Spice Must Flows, which I might try to do. But my deck is not really that well set up for it. I've got a bunch of cards that don't really give a lot of persuasion. All right, it's the battle for Carthage. Now you can see that my Dreadnought has returned home. And I have this option available to me as well. I think I'm going to try to go for this conflict and maybe go ahead and get myself another Dreadnought just for fun. There's not really a good tech for me to buy right now. If I use both these in the shadows this turn or this round, I could go up 2 with the guild potentially. There is also interstellar shipping to think about. I'm not sure that Dreadnought is really the best call for me here, actually. I think maybe I'll grab myself some more spice. I'll grab myself some more spice. You saw there that it said deploy units, right? So deploy up to 2 units, which means Garrett, Dreadnought, or Troop. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, Yuna does have enough spice for a Hayliner, so it's possibly not going to matter, but this is going to be an interesting surprise for people. Let's go ahead and trash a card. From the discard area, let's get rid of this Dune, the Desert Planet, and we're going to stop there. Another interesting thing I could do is I could save both of these to reveal to jump up there, but I'm actually going to use them together. So in the shadows, I'm going to send it to Acquring because I kind of would like to get another card into my hand here. Let's see what we get. And it's a freighter fleet. Okay. Now I'm going to discard a card. And I could discard the freighter fleet, but I'm going to discard in the shadows, which is going to give me an influence with the Bene Gesserit. Okay, so that's going to happen in a second. So choose one to gain an influence with. Let's go with the Emperor so we can get close to that point. And now, discarding the in the shadows triggers the Bene Gesserit influence. That's going to get me the alliance there and an intrigue card. Oh boy. Oh boy. Look at all of this weaponry at my disposal in exchange for Solari. That's quite exciting. Let's go ahead and let's just do that for now and see what happens. So this bounty hunter means I know that I can still get to a combat space this round. I can get to Siege Tower or Carthag no matter what my opponents do. A voice would stop me, but an enemy agent is not going to. All right. So what's in my draw pile? Do I want to draw another card from Acquring? I don't think I do. I could go to Research Station, which would draw me... could get me some interesting stuff. Might get me up to a power play or even an opulence potentially. Am I ever going to try to get this corner of the market thing happening? I don't know. Now, the opulence is kind of cool because it gets me a bunch of Solari, which I can use to fund all these things. On the other hand, it competes for my Solari for the activation, so I'm not actually all that excited about it. All right. Let's go ahead and Now you can see I can't go to Arching because that's my agent there. I can't infiltrate my own agent. All right, let's go ahead and go to Carthag. Okay, I don't have that. I'm going to activate this advanced weaponry right now. So that's going to get me another Dreadnought. And let's throw it in. I'm not sure if I really need to worry about anybody else. The garrisons are pretty weak. Yuna does have enough in her garrison. If she were to go to a Hardy Warriors, she could potentially throw in some stuff. So I'm going to do it like this. We'll see what she does. And if I need to, I can use the reinforcements later. I could also activate this and just completely flood the zone, but I feel like it's a bit overkill. This spy satellites tech is pretty cool. At the end, it's worth 1 point for each faction where you have 1 or less influence. So if you happen to be playing a game where you're really kind of nowhere on the influence track, like Green, for example, Yuna has the Emperor's Alliance, but she's nowhere everywhere else. This tech, this spy satellites, would be worth 3 victory points for Yuna at the end of the game right now. And if it happens that throughout the game she ends up, progressing up those tracks, then it reduces how many points it's worth, but you can then just, you can pay 3 spice to trash it and get 1 point. So it's a very flexible victory point card, and it can make a big difference in games. Now, for me, it would be worth currently 1 point, or I could trash it to get 1 point. So it's a 1 point victory point, either for 4 spice or for 7 spice, which, can be relevant. Anyway, it's my turn. It's my reveal. I'm going to go ahead and reveal. I think I can get away without using the reinforcements. We'll activate the freighter fleet reveal, go ahead and advance on the track. I can trash one of my cards in play, and you know what? I think it's... I could trash the freighter fleet to go up again, but, this alliance is getting a little bit sketchy right now. Tessia is going to go before me in the next round. She could potentially steal that alliance from me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trash this in the shadows, as amazing as that is, because I think it's time to protect my victory points. So let's go ahead and do that. And you can see that when I trash it, I get that bonus. And that's going to do it for now. Do I want to get more persuasion to try to get a spice must flow? Let's go ahead and do that now. There you can see the Bene Gesserit infiltration card, a very, very cool card that gives you a bunch of bonuses depending on if you've gotten to 2 influence with the other factions or not. And if you haven't, well, just reveal it and start getting your influence that way. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to win a conflict, it looks like, with 2 Dreadnoughts. So take a look at what happens there. 2 victory points, control of Carthag. All right, choose a location to control with your Dreadnought. So I can either choose Arching or Imperial Basin. I shouldn't be able to choose Carthag because I already have control of it. Anyway, we're going to go with Imperial Basin. And you can see the other Dreadnought goes back into the garrison. So when you win a conflict with Dreadnoughts, one of them will go control somewhere, the other one will go back to your garrison, and you can only have 2 Dreadnoughts, by the way. So there's a maximum of 2 per player. I can't get any more Dreadnoughts. I've got 2 already. Even though one of them is up here, one of them is down here, I'm maxed out. I have no more Dreadnoughts in my supply. Unit looking to pick up a lot of points this round. Tessia goes to interstellar shipping. Going up, dropping straight back down. Where is she going to take her influence? She takes it with Bene Gesserit, so she's competing with me here. I don't like that. There's a new Intrigue card in Rise of Ix. Drop down, influence somewhere, go up somewhere else. Okay. So he went down on Bene Gesserit and back up on Bene Gesserit, basically just to get a different Intrigue card, I guess. Okay, now, I said I can't compete on this, but can I? I have this flagship. I have this reinforcements. Can I actually do it? That would be 6 troops. If I can get these 3 in there, that would be 9. One of them would be a Dreadnought. Yuna still has 2 agents, 3 troops there. I don't have any combat intrigues. You know, there's a chance that I could actually do it. But I think it would be not necessarily that smart to go all out for it. And so what I'm focused on right now is the fact that this Bene Gesserit alliance is in jeopardy. I want to draw cards to try to get a Spice Must Flow, so this kind of works out. I'm just going to send Diplomacy over here to Selective Breeding. We'll go ahead and do that. Now, unfortunately, I have no discard pile. So I'm actually just going to have to trash the Diplomacy itself, although it's late enough in the game that it doesn't matter, I don't think. Okay, we've got some cards here. And that's going to do it. I am up to 9 Persuasion. This In the Shadows could be used to get me this Emperor point. The tricky thing there is that I have to discard a card to do it. I've got a lot of cards here. What am I going to draw? Not a lot of persuasion there. I don't have enough Solari to activate all of this stuff. I'd have to go to, like, smuggling to be able to fund it. But she's already at 20 strength. I really can't compete there anyway, I don't think. So, okay. I think if I go to Research Station, I might still have enough for a Spice Must Flow. All right, so we're going to play In the Shadows. We'll go ahead and draw the cards, see what we get. Imperial Spy, Bounty Hunter, Esmar Tuak. Okay, well, we've got some persuasion there. Let's go ahead and activate her. You can see my hand is larger than the screen, so I'm discarding a card. I mean, I could discard the Tuak, right? This guy's not providing me any persuasion. He's not doing anything for me unless I wanted to send him somewhere, which I don't think I really do. So we'll go ahead and just, right, what does the guild do for me? It would get me, it would get me the 3 Solari, which would be enough to activate all that. So I could go for like a big battle for second place just for the hell of it. Okay, let's just go ahead and get rid of him. And we'll take our point with the Emperor. And let's go ahead and do this. I don't have to do it now. You know what? Because I'm going to use this Bounty Hunter, I think, to infiltrate just for fun. So let's wait. Let's surprise them. Let's keep these AI guessing. these AIs, I guess. I was going to put some kind of insult after, like these AI, you know, so-and-sos, but I decided not to. Okay, so let's just demonstrate how this infiltration works. It's not exactly complicated, but we'll send the bounty hunter here to Carthag. Even though there's an enemy agent there, I can do it because of the infiltration ability. That's also going to get me 2 Solari because of that agent effect. So I've got more intrigue cards than I can use. Let's go ahead and activate the tech. So I'm activating this flagship. I can do it from this little handy UI thing, or I can do it from here. And it gets flipped over to indicate that it's been used this round. So I have those troops in my garrison now. And let's go ahead and deploy them. Throw in the Dreadnought. We'll throw in all that stuff. I could do the reinforcements now too, but hey, let's keep it for another surprise. I run the risk of someone like doing a really sneaky secret steal, but I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, so just another reminder with this reinforcements card. It's a problem that I think everybody runs into with the digital Dune Imperium game. So it's my reveal turn now, right? But the game doesn't know necessarily that it's my reveal turn until I click reveal. Now, to me, the player, of course it's my reveal turn. I have nothing else that I can do, right? But theoretically, I guess I could have an intrigue card that lets me recall an agent, or if I had a Kwisatz Haderach or something. I don't know, but the point is, if I were to activate the reinforcements right now, it wouldn't let me deploy them because the game doesn't know it's my reveal turn. So I'm going to click reveal first. Then I'm going to use the reinforcements and throw them all in. You can see I'm 1 short there. We almost got her. We're going to buy a Spice Must Flow for 10. And, you know, just for appearance's sake, I'm going to go ahead and buy the Water Peddler. It's going to get me 1 water. You know, I don't think it's going to come down to a water tiebreaker, but I'm just going to do it just for the hell of it. Trash one of my cards in play. It doesn't matter. Getting a Bene Gesserit influence right now doesn't do anything. I'm already at the max, so we'll just go ahead and decline to do it. Okay, unfortunately, there's no way to overcome that 1 combat strength. How often does it happen that a conflict comes down to 1 combat strength? It happens a lot. So Princess Yuna takes the victory. Tessia and I are actually going to tie for second. We'll both get an intrigue card and 2 Solari. We'll see if that ends up mattering. Not for me. There's a tiebreaker for Tessia. My corner of the market isn't going to matter. Baron has one of the new Rise of Ix endgame intrigues, which is quite complex. Oh, did I actually? Wait a minute. Did I get a point out of that corner of the market? Oh. Okay, you know what? I've actually been confused about this corner of the market. If you have 2, the spice must flow, get a point. If you have more than each opponent, get a point. I think I always thought of that as you have to first meet the 2 spice must flow, and then you can also get the other one. But you can actually get I had a spice must flow, nobody else had one, so that got me a point. Wow. After this many games, I just learned something new about an incredibly important and common endgame intrigue card. You can get the point by just having one if nobody else has any. Okay, very cool. All right, so there you go. That's a playthrough of Rise of Ix. I hope that helped you get a feel for the new mechanics in the game. I think we basically covered everything. We talked about technologies. I showed you how those work. We talked about the tech negotiators, how you can get a discount on techs, how you can buy techs, how the dreadnoughts work, the shipping track, and the freighters, as well as new mechanics like unload, discarding cards, and some of the new intrigues and leaders. Let me know if you have any feedback about that, but we're not done yet. I want to take a quick look at the other new leaders in Rise of Ix. So there are 6 new leaders in Rise of Ix. We just saw 3 of them. Let's take a look at this one, Prince Rhombur Vernius. So Rhombur is a leader focused on tech and dreadnoughts. You can see his passive ability, heavy lasgun cannons. Your dreadnoughts have 4 strength instead of 3. And his signet ring Ixian technology. When you use your signet ring, you can either get a tech negotiator or you can acquire a tech. Of course, you still have to pay for that tech, but it's an opportunity to buy one if you have some spice and or negotiators on hand. In the game, I played Archduke Armand Ecaz, and here's the other member of House Ecaz, Ilesa Ecaz. So you can see that, let's start with her signet ring. First of all, guild contacts. So her signet ring is you can pay 1 Solari and get a fold space. Very cool ability. And her passive, 1 step ahead. Round start, set aside a card from your hand. At the start of your second turn in a round, reveal that card and return it to your hand. If you use it to send an agent this turn, get a spice if it has exactly 1 agent icon, or get a Solari if not. That's a lot of words to take in. So you know what? I'm actually just going to show you how Ilesa works here. We're going to jump into a game just to show you how her ability works. Okay, it is the start of the round. So it's not the start of your turn, it's the start of the whole round. Before anybody does anything, regardless of who's the first player, you're going to activate this 1 step ahead ability. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm deciding right now kind of which card I want to use for my second agent. Okay, now I am the 4th player and I only have 3 cards I can actually send somewhere. So I want to choose a card I can actually use. And I think it's going to be hard to send a Dune because this smuggling is probably going to be taken, and the only other option, well, I guess there's Haga Basin or this one. But you know what? I'm going to choose Seek Allies because I think it's a safer bet right now, and you can just see how it works. All right, so I'm going to choose that card. That's going to go away now. It's over in this like area over here. If you're playing in person, you can just like set it face down next to you somewhere. But it is kind of easy to forget about it. Okay, so here's my first agent. So that card is still gone from my hand. I'm going to go ahead and send a Dune over here to Haga Basin just for the hell of it. Throw in some troops, whatever. And I may have messed up there. That water actually might have been relevant. But I'll be good. I can either go to secrets or still suits with it. Okay, so at the start of my second agent turn, which is now, the card that I set aside comes back to my hand, and you can see it has this glow on it, so that's reminding me this is the card I set aside. If I use this card as an agent now, I'm going to get either a spice or a Solari, depending on how many agent icons the card has. So if it's exactly 1 agent icon, it's a spice. So for example, a Dune the Desert Planet, a Reconnaissance, or a Dagger. If that was the card you set aside and then use as your second agent, you would get a spice. Seek Allies has 4 agent icons, so it's going to get me a Solari. Okay, so let's watch that now. I'm going to send Seek Allies over here to Still Suits. I get the water, and I get the Solari. And we'll just throw in the troop for the hell of it. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay, here's the other house, Moritani leader, Viscount Hundro Moritani. Intelligence is his passive ability. At the start of the game, look at the top 2 cards of the Intrigue deck. Keep one and put the other back on top. So that's pretty cool. So at the start of the game, you're going to get an Intrigue card, but you get your choice of 2. And when you don't pick, goes back on top of the deck. So that means you know what the next Intrigue card is. So if you really like it, you could prioritize going to Carthag or Secrets to get it. Or you can pay attention to who picks it up and you know what they have in their hand. Pretty cool. And for the Signet Ring, it's Couriers. You can pay a spice to activate a freighter, which is a very powerful thing. I'm going to go ahead and just show you how the UI works for his intelligence because it can be a little bit confusing. Right, so at the start of the game here, I have these 2 Intrigue cards to choose from, and I choose one to keep. So whichever one of these I want, I drag it here, and that's going to go to my hand. The other one will go to the top of the Intrigue deck. And that's that. All right, well, that does it for this Rise of Ix tutorial. I think we covered pretty much everything there was. We looked at all of the leaders, and I hope that was helpful for you to wrap your head around all the new stuff in Rise of Ix. If you have any questions about anything, let me know in the comments. Also, any feedback about the video is appreciated. Give me a like if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and you can also tune in Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to watch me play Dune Imperium live right here on YouTube or on Twitch, twitch.tv/bludgeon. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.